Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Foxy New.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back to another edition of Fanboys Exposed with the IBFP. And today we break down Deontay Wilder defenders believing Vladimir Klitschko and Luis Ortiz are at the same level. Look, let's just break it down. And this comes from a comment from the guy called The Logical Man. He says, Nuke, I like you and respect you, but bro, you have to keep it real. Wilder already fought 3 top 10 fighters after Bermane Stiverne. You also said that Luis Ortiz was old, but AJ fought a 41-year-old Klitschko. Dillian Whyte is fighting Povetkin that's 39 and slower than he ever was. We need to keep that same energy and truth. Now, the Logical Man made that entire statement about Ortiz and Klitschko, about Dillian Whyte and Povetkin, and about Wilder's top 10 level opponents after Bermane Stiverne. So everything he said was not logical, it was illogical. So look, let's just break it down honestly and objectively. And we start with Deontay Wilder and we break it down. And Deontay Wilder, before he ever became a world champion, he never fought a top 10 ranked opponent, period. That's a fact. Number one. Number two, after he beat Bermane Stiverne and won a world title, his next 6 fights, let's break them down. Eric Molina, ranked 37th in the world. Johan Duhaupas, ranked 34th in the world. Arthur Spilka, ranked 24th in the world. Chris Arreola, ranked 43rd in the world. Gerald Washington, ranked 41st in the world. And Bermane Stiverne again, and he was unranked at this time. So you see, like I've already said, his next 6 fights after winning a world title were not top 10 level opponents. We got to be real. Until his 40th fight is when he fought an elite fighter in Tyson Fury. It took him 40 fights before he stepped up and fought a true elite fighter. We have to be honest and unbiased. But let's keep going. And let's debunk this whole theory about Vladimir Klitschko saying, well, you said Ortiz was old, but AJ fought a 41-year-old Klitschko. If you think that, Vladimir Klitschko and Luis Ortiz are even on the same planet, much less the same level, you're delusional. And let me explain what I mean by that. When you look at Vladimir Klitschko, you see that this guy, he was a former two-time unified heavyweight champion of the world, holding the IBF, the WBO, the WBA, the IBO, and the Ring magazine titles. This guy is an all-time great fighter who dominated the heavyweight division for over 10 years and is a certified Hall of Famer. That's who Vladimir Klitschko is. Even at 41, he still was a very dangerous opponent, and even Tyson Fury didn't want to come back and fight the guy and give him his rematch. You got to be honest about that. Now let's turn to Luis Ortiz and see what he's accomplished in his career. Ortiz has never been a world champion, and the only thing that he ever held was an L for a loss. That's all he's ever held. Luis Ortiz has never held a world title. He's never done anything significant in his career but take an L. That's what he's famous for getting knocked out by Deontay Wilder, who's one of the biggest hype jobs we've seen. And look, let's also say, I already know what you're going to comment to this. You're going to say, well, Luis Ortiz was never given the opportunity. He was the boogeyman. That's a myth. And let me break that down as well. We already saw Anthony Joshua, offer this guy over $7 million to fight. After Luis Ortiz had been calling out AJ again and again, AJ offers this guy $7 million to step in and fight him, and Luis Ortiz turns it down. You got to be real about it. This guy really didn't want to smoke. Luis Ortiz had opportunities, and he ducked it. And then when he stepped up, he got knocked out. So we got to be real about the situation. Luis Ortiz and Vladimir Klitschko, all-time great Hall of Famer, comparing to a guy who's never won a belt, a guy who turned down multi-million-dollar paydays, a guy who's never accomplished anything in his life. Are you kidding me? Are you serious, or are you delusional? And then you also see Luis Ortiz, and you want to compare them because of the age. Did you not realize what state Luis Ortiz was before he even stepped into the ring physically? According to his own manager, he states Luis Ortiz was put into the ICU because his blood pressure was entirely too high. His blood pressure was 200 over something. So before he even fought Deontay Wilder, the guy was in the ICU for high blood pressure. This guy was in an intensive care unit. What are you talking about here? How can you even make the comparison? That's being a Deontay Wilder defender. See, you don't want to be a Wilder fanboy, and I respect the logical man, but these comments were just illogical. It's too much defending of Deontay Wilder trying to pump up his resume with a biased narrative. We're giving you facts. Fact, Luis Ortiz has never won a world title. Fact, Vladimir Klitschko is an all-time great. Fact, Luis Ortiz was in the hospital in ICU before he fought Deontay Wilder. These are all facts. Facts cannot be biased. Facts, not feelings. You have to be honest with yourself. And then you get to Dillian White and you say, oh, he's fighting the old Alexander Povetkin. Well, if you look at that, Dillian White offered Andy Ruiz, a former unified heavyweight champion in his prime, a multi-million-dollar deal to fight him next, and he turned it down. How's that Dillian White's fault? How can you complain that Dillian White is still fighting a very good fight at this point? At this point, after being rejected a fight with Andy Ruiz Jr. So you see Dillian White wants to smoke. You see he made the offer, but you're blaming him for fighting Povetkin? You really need to do your research. But once again, unbiased as always, it's the IBFP.